Hey friends, I wanted to share with you today 3 audio plugins that I've been working on making use of the Reactor library. If you don't know what Reactor is, that's perfectly fine. Reactor is actually part of the Native Instruments Complete Suite, which is perhaps one of the most popular pieces of software ever created for music producers around the world. Chances are many of you already have Complete and already have Reactor and don't even know it because of this. Again, this is a huge piece of software that people use in all different kinds of ways, and Reactor is just one really small part of it. But in case you don't have Reactor or Complete, because those things cost money, you can still download the Reactor 6 player for free off the Native Instruments website. I'll also have a direct link up on my own page, so you don't actually need to enter your email address or do anything messy like that. So anyway, once you get Reactor, you'll be able to open up Reactor and just go to File and open up these plugins, which I'll also have links to on my own page. These plugins are basically compatible with almost every audio plugin format in existence because Native Instruments does AU and VST and TDM and just across the board all these different plugin formats. So you will be able to use these once you have a copy of Reactor or Reactor Player up and going on your machine. Anyway, let's take a listen to these plugins. The first one I want to show you is Mono to Stereo Deluxe. What this plugin does is it inputs a mono signal and creates up to 8 phase shifts between the 2 channels. These are very subtle timing differences they're frequency-dependent timing differences to widen and broaden the stereo image to make your sound fuller and bigger. Let's get some audio going, and I just have this synth line. It's just going to be a little synth chord progression that's going to open up with a filter. And I'll give you a second just to sort of take it all in. And I'm going to start opening up the Mono to Stereo Deluxe. This is going to work best if you have a pair of headphones or are sitting in a nice listening environment right in between your speakers. And the sound should start sounding like it's more around you, in front of you, and then around you. Hopefully that should be freaking you out. And of course we can move it really fast and have so much fun. Just like that. There are a couple other features as part of this plugin. Because phase shifting the bass can be such a dangerous thing to do as far as mono compatibility, it does have an ignore bass switch that you can turn on. And this way the phase shifting that it's going to do will ignore the bass frequencies and it'll be a little bit more mono compatible. The second thing it can actually take a stereo signal and sum the 2 channels rather than just taking a mono one, which you can activate with this switch right here. All of these parameters are fully automatable in your DAW. So you can do this sort of just on the fly as part of your mix and give a lot of creativity to whatever project you're working on. Now, one of my favorite things about this plugin that I've designed is actually this little display right here. Many of you are probably familiar working with stereo tools, stereo widening tools that show you a phase scope and a phase and/or a phase correlation meter. I'll show you one over here. This is from Isotope Ozone. On this giant graph here, let me narrow this again. This is what it looks like on a phase scope mono, which is kind of similar to mine. It actually goes in the other direction, but you can sort of see that's kind of similar. And over here, this is a very important meter. This is the phase correlation meter, which shows you how much your 2 speakers or 2 channels are working together or working against each other. And basically, the more they work against each other, that'll determine the wideness or even the spaciness of the sound. So usually you want it somewhere, you want your mix somewhere between 0 and +1, but you can do all sorts of effects with it. What I've done in my display, I've tried to actually combine the phase scope with the phase correlation meter into one easy to read display that I think is very intuitive. And how you read my display is that basically when you see more activity at the top of this, that's implying the sound is coming more from in front of you, i.e. that the phase correlation is very high. You can also see the amplitude of the individual chords as they pop out as well as how often the phase is going negative. You can see how it sort of thins out towards the top here. As we widen the phase, more of that activity gets pushed towards the back or behind you. And when we get all the way to the back, it gets very effecty sounding, spacey sounding. It almost sounds like it's behind you if you're listening in a good pair of headphones or in a good speaker environment, which I think is pretty cool. So anyway, this is my Mono to Stereo Deluxe plugin. I'm going to bypass it for now. This will actually turn on the stereo version of the audio that you're hearing, so don't be alarmed by that if it all of a sudden gets much bigger and fuller. Again, I was starting with a mono signal and trying to widen a mono signal. The second plugin that I want to show you is called the wah-oo. And wah-oo is very simple in one sense. Let me turn it on here. It's basically just a whole bank of filters. But these filters have been tuned to the vowel or formant resonances of the human voice. So you can take the sound and make it all of a sudden sound like it's almost talking to you. This is very, very cool. We can adjust the bandwidth of these filters to give it an even more pronounced response, as well as we can mix in more or less of the wah-oo sound. And again, all these parameters are fully automatable within your DAW, so you can do all sorts of effects with them over time. There are a number of presets I've also included with these plugins so that you can quickly just select different vowel shapes as well. All right, we'll turn that one off again. The last plugin I want to show you is perhaps will be the most fun for some of you who have any sort of DJing experience. This is called DJ Scrub. Let's turn it on. You won't notice any change in the sound once I turn it on, but you will notice that it has this buffer down here that starts filling with audio. And as soon as I've done that, I can all of a sudden just go ahead and start scratching this audio down here. And right now it has a 20-second buffer. Oh, that is adjustable. I'm not very good at scratching and doing DJ stuff, but you can kind of get the idea. Most importantly, all these things are automatable, so you could be playing this right in your DAW, and all of a sudden just instant tape stops. If you do try to increase the speed from the current position, it won't let you. It'll flash this little indicator light and just sort of get stuck, like you can't do anything with your mouse while this light's on. And that's because you're trying to play audio into the future, and it doesn't know what audio exists in the future yet, so you can't really do that at the current time. Maybe in the next release I'll make it so that you can do that, but right now it only lets you play and scrub audio that has already happened, so, which can be very fun. One other feature this plugin has is it has a squared mode, which will, instead of going from minus 2x to 2x speed, it'll go from minus 4x speed to 4x speed, which does change the speed and the curve of it quite a bit. Maybe these sort of rubber band effects. Okay, so anyway, I hope you've enjoyed listening to these quick little plugins. Again, these are all sort of in beta, so I'd really appreciate any feedback you have. Please send me an email. Again, that's on my webpage with any sort of comments or criticism that you have, or compliments. I'll also take compliments on these. So I hope you've enjoyed the little demo, and I'll see you later. Thanks all.